So welcome. The meeting of the Faculty Senate will come to order. Welcome, everyone. For our colleagues connecting at a distance, please begin your response with Potomac State or WVU Tech. Potomac State, how many are present?
Potomac State, 2 present.
Okay, thank you. And at WVU Tech, how many are present?
WVU Tech has 4 senators present.
Okay, thank you. And for WVU Tech, I did notice that President Carolyn Long is giving a State of Tech address starting at 4 p.m. So if any of you need to drop out at that point, I think we would understand. Okay, and then also for the regionals, and this is also probably useful information for everyone here, we have a little bit of a new procedure in how we handle questions from the regionals. So whereas before I would have to stop and ask each of the divisional campuses if they have a question, now what we're going to do is we're going to flash up a slide, and if I say, do you have any questions, it'll either say yes or no, depending on whether Tech or Potomac State has any questions, okay? And so we're going to test this right now. So Tech or Potomac State, do you have any questions? Okay, good. We'll continue then. Okay, and I have been informed that we do have a quorum. That was the slight pause at the beginning of the meeting to make sure that we did. Okay, so our next agenda item is the minutes. This is the minutes of the September 11th Faculty Senate meeting, and the minutes have been approved, they've been distributed as an annex to your agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the September meeting? Actually, I do have a correction with my apologies, and this relates to the Board of Governors report. There was an unfortunate error of about $500 million in the report of the budget. So the minutes read that the budget was $1.54 billion, and that should actually read $1,054 million. So it would be 1.054 in revenue. In revenue. And then in expenditures, it read 1.66 billion, and that should be 1,066 million, 1.066 billion. Okay, so unfortunately, we don't have that extra $500 million. But are there any other corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as amended. Okay, so our next item is Provost Joyce McConnell's report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'm so happy now. One piece of news that I think will be a relief to most people is our President Trump is not coming on Wednesday. That event has been canceled. And for all of you who were concerned about traffic or classes, that makes it much easier for us, particularly to manage the downtown campus, because they were going to close High Street at 3. So this gives us our Wednesday back, which is great. One of the things you've been hearing a lot about and reading a lot about is West Virginia Forward, and that is the project that has arisen out of the McKinsey report or McKinsey project that the president has spoken to about on a number of occasions. The McKinsey project is launched, and the implementation phase is referred to as West Virginia Forward, and I wanted to update you very briefly on how that process is being rolled out. So in the report, and you can actually get on the website for West Virginia Forward, and you can take a look at a summary of the findings, and you can see the process put on the website of how we're going to move forward. Most important thing for you to understand is that there are 9 areas that were identified is needing significant work and expertise. We're going to establish priorities among those 9 and create implementation teams that can work on particular issues. We are going to be contacting faculty who have expertise in these areas and asking you to be willing to share your expertise with the implementation groups, with the understanding that for some of you this might turn into quite a bit of work, in which case we will be making arrangements to either supplement salaries or buy out time. We understand that this is not something that you can just do on top of everything else that you're doing. So we will have more news for you probably in the next week or so about what those groups are going to be in terms of priority and how we're going to start rolling it out. The goal, obviously, is to take the findings of the McKinsey report, implement what we can as quickly as possible, and get things moving so we've captured this momentum of how we help West Virginia succeed. And we all know, having struggled with the budget as we have, that helping West Virginia succeed is not only a part of our land grant mission and one that we're happy to carry, but it's also essential for our long-term ability to thrive as a university. And so we will be making sure that we've got everyone on board and moving this through. And I see those of you who are interested in this process nodding your head, and I really appreciate that. It's an exciting time for West Virginia if we can actually make some of these things happen to make our economy more diverse and more vigorous. So one of the things that we have talked a lot about is the importance of retention as well as enrollment. And I know I look around the room and many of you were at the enrollment retreat that we had recently. And we also have had a retention retreat. So we're looking at how it is that we firm up the budget on both ends. How do we begin to recruit additional students, but once we have them here, how do we retain them? And so completion has become a great focus. You know, we have a dean of completion, Joe Seaman, and I know many of you are now engaged in completion issues. Our Associate Provost for Undergraduate Education, Paul Kreider, and John Campbell, the Vice Provost, have been working very hard on two new ways in which we can help our students complete. And one is the addition of a winter term, and the other is to grow summer enrollment by increasing the number of offerings and also trying to get students to stay on campus as opposed to going out back home. One of the things, and Paul may want to fill you in if I mess this up, but I understand that we surveyed 3,000 undergraduates, and the feedback that we got from the undergraduates about summer, first of all, they were 100% enthusiastic about a winter term. It was an opportunity to pick up some credits where they really needed it. In the summer, they were very enthusiastic about summer and actually very enthusiastic about being able to stay on campus because most of them have 12-month leases. So it makes sense for them to be able to stay. But many of them were going home for jobs. And so one of the areas that we really have to work on is how do we create more opportunities, particularly for our undergraduates, to be able to stay in the summer and take courses that they need to either accelerate their program or to complete their program. And I do believe there are a couple of colleges right now that are looking at several degree programs that could be completed in 3 years as opposed to 4 years if the students were to be able to attend and get those particular courses in the summer. So we're taking a look at that. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to date on that. We have gone up again this year, almost 1% in retention. Remember, that is our goal, 1%. I think we got to 0.7%, is that right, John? So we got to 0.7%, so we're 0.3 off, but we're gonna keep pushing forward. What I do want to reiterate is that we know, and I've said this a number of times, that the degree to which we can engage our students and connect them with another human being that matters to them and for whom they matter, that's the key to getting them to stay. And so if you are seeing students who are falling behind or who seem disengaged or may need some extra support, please reach out to them and make sure that you're sharing with them all the resources that are available to them. Even if all it is telling them about a student club or a student organization, but someplace where they feel that they can connect. And you are their contact, and you are the people that they turn to most readily for assistance. You're kind of their first go-to. So we really appreciate you being able to be there for those students and for helping. But if you know that there are students who need more than you can provide, I want you to make sure to use the resources that we have on campus, particularly if you notice that a student is in some way acting abnormally, in a way that may be self-destructive or destructive to others. You feel a student is being particularly aggressive or hostile, any of those sorts of things, I really, really, really encourage you to report as quickly as possible to the Dean of Students, to Corey Ferris, and make sure that he understands what it is you're observing. And I'm encouraging you to do this because we have a very robust care team now, which is a team of experts that gets together and they share information about students that they've been hearing may be troubled in one way or another, and working with those students to get them the right resources that they might need. So taking care of our students in that way is very important. I want you to know we take it very seriously, and we are making sure that we have the pieces in place to support them. For those of you who are affiliated with the Caruth Center in any way or have used our Caruth Counseling Center, you know that they have a tremendous caseload. We're working very hard to increase the number of counselors they have and to have an additional psychiatrist there. This is I don't want you to think our campus is unusual. This is a trend nationally on all campuses, but something that we have to be very mindful of. In terms of the conduct of our students, I also wanted to raise with you issues of academic dishonesty, and to tell you that we have identified a position, have been working on a position description for a person who would be in the Associate Provost's Office for Undergraduate Education, and they would be a similar, they would serve a similar role to what student misconduct does in student affairs or student life. That means that you would have a person who is an expert on academic dishonesty, someone who you can contact and work with on issues that are coming up, and who will be proactive, reaching out across the campus to understand better what we can do to prevent any academic dishonesty. Is there anything you wanted me to add, Paul, to that? No? Okay, good. He's saying that because he wants me to sit down. The other good news for this week, and it was a great success, as you know, we created the Center for the Humanities, and there was a reception on Saturday night, and it was really extraordinary. I don't think Ryan Claycomb is here today, but there were people at the reception, and what was really interesting about it is other people in the humanities who had not been together with humanities folks from other disciplines ran into one another and said, "Oh, I didn't know you were working on that. That's really interesting. I'd like to work on that with you." So we saw just in the 2.5 hours of the reception, and maybe a little bit of wine helped, but there was a little connection going on there that I think is very important. For those of you who've been following the development of the Center for the Humanities, one of the key goals is to do what we need to be doing nationally to raise the profile of the humanities and to help everyone in our constituency, but also really in the world, to understand the importance of humanities and where it connects with the success of our students. And one of the things you know is there's been this really incredible national push toward skills that are readily marketable, which will get you a job right away. What we know is all of those other skills that you learn, communication, either oral or in writing, the way in which you interact with people in terms of interpersonal relations, your ability to do envisioning, your ability to problem solve, all of those skills also are very important, and they often come from the humanities. And so the humanities play a critical role in undergraduate education, as does, for example, something like, and I consider history a humanity, but you don't. You're shaking your head. David Hauser disagrees with me, but I'll tell you why I think of history. I think the context of how people exist in the world, that they know what came before them and how that informs what might come next, is very critical. I think we've seen that very much highlighted by the incidents in Charlottesville. The understanding of the roots of white supremacy and anti-Semitism, for example, are extremely important. Finally, I wanted to tell you a few achievements of our faculty so you can feel really good. Dr. Nick Wu, who's a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering, has been named a fellow of the Electrochemical Society. This distinction is granted to no more than 15 people annually. So it's a huge, huge deal that he's being inducted. Biology professors Kevin Daly and Andrew Dax were recently awarded a $1.4 million Air Force grant to pursue collaborative research with colleagues at Case Western Reserve. Their work has the potential to guide the design of applications and technologies ranging from sensor systems for drones to prosthetic limbs. Those are two really just good updates. I know there are many other successes to talk about, but I don't want to take up too much more time. I would like to take questions if there are any. And I think rather than going to our campuses in Beckley and Kaiser last, I'll start with them first. Are there any questions from Kaiser? No questions. I saw the flip. It's great. I feel like I'm playing Jeopardy. How about Beckley? Any questions? No questions. Oh, no, that's still Potomac State. Oh, and WVU Tech? Okay. We're okay? Okay, from either. Very, very good. Are there any questions here at home? Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Provost McConnell. Okay, so next on the agenda is my report, and we just met 3 weeks ago, so don't have a whole lot to report, but I did want to give a few announcements and updates. One update I wanted to give was in this area of Board of Governors rulemaking. So we have these Board of Governor policies that are being revised. They'll be called rules. And the areas that are of most interest to the Senate, of course, are in the areas of faculty and academics, okay? And so I'll go over the process and where we stand in each of those two areas. So with respect to faculty, there's a working group that includes C.B. Wilson, myself, Lena Maynor, Richard Turton, Louise Veselicki, Melissa Latimer, Chris Staples, and Gary Furby. And we're meeting every Friday for a couple hours to just go out, go through the policies one at a time. There's 8 of them that we're concerned with. We met last week. We actually went through the policies that relate to adjunct faculty raises, including the enhancement for academic achievement that you can get if you're fully promoted, and also teaching duties for administrators. So we're making pretty good progress. Our intention here is not to do any radical changes, but try to just shift everything over from the format of being a Board of Governor policy over to a rule. There are some opportunities here, though. So, if there's some things that we've been talking about in the Senate over the past couple of years, We do have some opportunities to make some changes. However, even though we're no longer under HEPC, some things are still in the code. So our hands are tied to a certain extent in changing some of these things. We perhaps have a little bit less latitude than we might have thought. But in terms of the process, there's going to be a series of campus conversations related to faculty issues, and I did want to announce them here. So there's going to be 3 campus conversations. Each one is from 3 to 5 p.m., and the dates are October 11th at the law school, October 17th at the Mountain Lair, and October 15th at Health Sciences. So that's October 11, 17, and 25th. Okay, so more details, including the precise room number, will be sent via email. Okay, so the goal here is we'd like to get these faculty policies before the Board of Governors at their February 16th meeting, and that'll open up a period of public comment. And so public comment would actually include the Senate. So if you have some specific comments, you'll have an opportunity once they've been first presented at the Board of Governors. You'll certainly have an opportunity there. You also have plenty of opportunities earlier during the campus conversations. And then they'll be ready for final approval by the board by April 20th, hopefully. We can stick to that schedule. I think we will, but we'll see. We do plan on discussing it at the Faculty Senate exec meetings over the next 3 months, and we do plan on having a presentation here at the Faculty Senate in January, at the January meeting, okay? And that's mostly just to present, the revised rules. Not really at that point, the intent at that point is not really to be debating them. Okay, so the second area is in the area of academic policy. To a certain extent, the process is similar, but there are some differences I wanted to highlight. So there's a few different committees that are working on this simultaneously. There's a policy committee, academic policy committee, which is being led by Paul Kreider. It includes Lena Maynor and Evan Witters, our senators that are on there, but there's several others. And they're going to be doing most of the work. So they're going to have the job of writing the rules, translating the policies over to rules. And then in addition, Faculty Senate exec has put together, the process of putting together an ad hoc, I'll call it the Faculty Senate Ad Hoc Academic Policy Review Committee. Okay, that's a pretty long name. But their job basically is to kind of review the output of the Academic Policy Committee. And so I think we're going to have this kind of iterative process where it's going to go from, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, it's going to start with Paul's Academic Policy Committee. It's going to go to academic deans for their comment, back to the Academic Policy Committee for revision. Then it's going to come to the Ad Hoc Faculty Senate Committee for our input, potentially back to the Academic Policy Committee for revision if necessary. Then it's going to go to the students. So the SGA has an ad hoc committee of officers that'll be given an opportunity to review it. Okay, so we have all these different groups looking at it. However, one thing that will be different is we're not planning a series of campus conversations the way that we are for faculty issues. And the main reason is, well, academic issues don't really affect people's employment, so it doesn't really lend itself necessarily to campus conversation. And there will be adequate opportunities to get inputs from the faculty, administration, students, and the general public. So we hope that that's a good process. We are open. It's still early on, so we do have some room to change things, although we do want to move quickly. And so we don't really have the luxury of being able to debate every single sentence here within the entire Faculty Senate. Okay. Are there any questions about or comments about the rulemaking policy before I move on to my other main issue? Okay. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to discuss, and it's sort of been called to my attention, is eCampus, and in particular the date that eCampus opens. Okay, and this is something we actually discussed at length in the last Faculty Senate exec meeting. And so basically the issue here and the question is, okay, what day do we want to make eCampus open and available to students, okay? And there's kind of two parties here. Okay, so there's one camp that says, oh, okay, well, we would like to make eCampus open as early as possible so that students have an opportunity to retrieve their materials and come to class prepared. And there's another camp that says, well, no, we would like more time, we as instructors would like more time to develop course content once we're on contract, okay? So the compromise we came up with at Exact was that, well, the intent is we would like eCampus to open on the same day that contracts start. Okay, now if we say it that way, it's a little ambiguous. So the actual language we used was to open eCampus 3 days before classes start, okay? And so here's the actual language. eCampus will open 3 calendar days prior to the start of the course. This time frame should always fall when faculty are on contract, which seemed to be the biggest concern expressed, okay? Now, that said, we do acknowledge that not everyone's going to be happy. I mean, some people think 3 days is too late, okay? And the analogy I've heard there is that it's like telling students they can't buy the textbook before the semester begins, right? It's not really ensuring student success. But I've heard others that say, well, no, you know, we want to make sure that we have enough time to provide the most content for students and, you know, try to enhance their learning by having the content fully ready before it's open. Okay, but I'll say, the thing is, this is really a technical issue, and it has a technical solution. So rather than debating it here, it's really not a policy issue. And the reason why, and I spent a good part of the morning talking with eCampus and Sucharita in particular, but the thing is, you can control the release date of the content in eCampus. So all you got to do, if there's like a folder in eCampus, you just go to it, you right-click on it, and you click Adaptive Release, and you set the date. And then also, if there's some links on the left side, just click on it, and you can set the date that it's available. So, you know, if 3 days is too early, okay, we understand. But then all you got to do is just go into your web page, go into your eCampus page, and just set the release date for the content to be a later date, and then hopefully that will be acceptable to you. And our apologies that we unfortunately don't have the ability to set the release date of the entire page on a course-by-course basis because eCampus is synchronized with Banner Star, so we just can't do that technically. Okay. Any questions about that particular issue or comments? Okay. Okay, so just a few more announcements. One of these I thought the provost might make, and that is the deadline for honorary degree nominations is October 6th, which is Friday.
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you get your nomination in then, okay? Also, 2 other goings-ons around campus. You may have seen this on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, at the Art Museum. There's an event in the evening which is to discuss the Shepherd Ferry exhibit. And then the other thing I found is on Thursday, October 5th, Professor Christina Olson will be giving a talk about the revolution in art, the Russian avant-garde, and that's at Ming Shea Hall at 5 p.m. Okay, so just wanted to announce those since they're this week. Okay, are there any other questions or points of discussion for me? Or any questions, I should say, rather than other? Okay. Okay, good. Hearing none, we'll move on. Let's see, our next item. Okay, this is a for information item. Paul, do you want to you can come up here, you could come up here, yeah.
Good afternoon. We became aware of an issue with the spring calendar for 2018, that's next semester. And I thank Registrar M.A. Pfeiffer for bringing this to our attention. So what we did, we had a quick process. We got the calendar committee together, and then we also brought this to Faculty Senate Exec for review, and all persons have approved this going forward. So it's information for you today. So as you can see in the Annex 1A, there is the original calendar is set there. So the last day of classes were to be Monday, April 30th, with exam prep day as May 1st, and then final starting on Wednesday, May 2nd. And then since May 8th is election day, the university would be closed, and the finals would not end until May 9th. So grades, therefore, being typically due 48 hours after the last final exam, those would not be due until the evening of Friday, May 11th, or morning, Saturday, May 12th. So the summer session, which is scheduled to start on Monday, May 14th, this would not give our students ample time to decide what they needed to do for summer. So as you mentioned, as I mentioned, the primary issue here is that you may recall that we have a new suspension policy that goes into effect at the end of the spring semester. So all students at WVU who are under a 2.0 cumulative GPA are due for suspension. So therefore, only having a weekend to decide, or less than a weekend, to decide what they may want to do to stay on track and get registered for the summer, that old schedule presented a problem. So the new calendar will be Friday. The last day of classes will be Friday, May 27th. Finals will start on April. Thank you for the correction. Finals will start on Monday, April 30th, and end Friday, May 4th. Grades will be due on Monday, May 7th at noon, and then WVU will be closed on Tuesday, the 8th, and then students will be able to view their grades then on Wednesday, May 9th. This will give them 3 days to make arrangements for what they will need to do to shore things up for summer session. So, which begins on the 14th. Are there any questions? If I can't answer it, M.A. Pfeiffer will. No questions. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Paul. I did want to make a few comments about the calendar. So basically what we're doing is in the spring semester, we had this like split exam week that spanned a weekend, and now we're just kind of ending the semester a little bit earlier so that it will be a continuous week, okay? And this does conform to our approved guidelines. We will have enough classes. To be honest, I'm not real sure how we ended up with that calendar to begin with. And if you look ahead the next 4 years, the calendars, which did come before the Senate at the end of last year, they all have exam weeks that are Monday through Friday, both in the fall and the spring. That's something that we as a faculty kind of fought hard for on the calendar committee. Okay, now, in terms of process, we are changing the calendar. However, the new calendar, as revised, actually follows the policies that we approved back in May. And so, which means, I guess, that the calendar that we had previously approved that we're changing did not conform to those policies. And as such, we don't actually need to vote on the new calendar because it conforms to our guidelines. And we, as a Senate, agreed that we don't need to be voting on individual calendars. We just need to be voting on calendar guidelines, okay? So with that in mind, we don't need to vote on this. However, there is an Annex 1A, okay? And I think we do want to file that. So we'll just kind of handle this like a regular for information item, okay? So first of all, are there any questions or points of discussion on Annex 1A, which is the revised calendar? Okay, so hearing none, then Annex 1A is filed. Okay, all right. So now our next speaker is Chris DeBoard, and he is the Vice President of Talent and Culture, which some of you might call Human Resources, and he's here to talk about the culture survey.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually have I've got 2 brief items, and I'll go through these relatively quickly. The first one is just to make sure everyone is aware, this morning we launched our 2nd annual culture survey, so you all should have received an email. This time last year, we surveyed a random sample of about 2,000 faculty and staff. The results for that survey were shared with the deans in February, and a copy of those results is posted as an annex to today's agenda for your reference. So if you didn't see those when they were shared back in February, if you had any curiosity about what those results were, they are in the annex for today. This year, we've decided to expand the survey to all benefits eligible faculty and staff. So instead of a sample of 2,000, we're doing all, roughly 8,000 benefits eligible faculty and staff. The survey takes less than 5 minutes to complete, and the link will be active for the next 2 weeks. And this year, when we get results after the holidays, deans are also going to receive results for their individual schools in addition to an overall view of the university. And then I'll just quickly do the second topic, then open the floor to questions. Second topic is centered around our next round of policy development workshops. And similar to how Matt talked about an iterative process, we are doing our first workshop scheduled for October 10th. Some of you in the room might have received invites to those sessions. Our goal really in those sessions is to articulate a set of behaviors that illustrate what it means to live our values at work. And we really intend to try to engage everyone in campus that wants to be part of that conversation around what should we expect from each other every day when we come to work in terms of things like collegiality, openness, respect. You know, what kind of environment do we really want to have here when we say we're living our values or a behavior is not in line with our values. And so recently we shared drafts with the Faculty Senate Welfare Committee and the Classified Staff Council. That generated a little concern. Folks thought that we were kind of close to launching. We're absolutely at the other end of that spectrum. We found it's a lot easier to put a straw model out for people to comment on and get feedback as opposed to start with a blank sheet of paper. But we are just beginning that process. We're going to go through multiple iterations. We intend to have multiple policy development workshops as well as open communication around open invite campus conversations before anything would ever turn into any type of policy. And it's the exact same process we followed last spring when we went through the Freedom Agenda. So I would really, if you're invited, I encourage you to attend. I've had some folks ask questions. It's a half-day session, and folks have said it's a little onerous in terms of time. As a faculty member, we'd be glad to work you in any way that we can. It's really set up to be round robin, a series of round robin discussions. So if you can't make the whole day, if you want to come for part of that day, if you're invited, we'll definitely work you in and make good use of your time, and then no need to stay the whole day if you can't come for that half-day session. And so those were the two updates for this afternoon. Any questions from the group or from Potomac State or Tech?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely, Matt.
So just to clarify, the last policy document that you're talking about, I think I'd seen something that had been given, for lack of a better term, the short phrase code of conduct. Is that the same document that you're talking about?
Yes, it is. And, after our discussion, Matt, I was purposely not trying to use that terminology because Matt had a great suggestion. He said it feels very cold, very institutional, and we ought to think about a different title for that, because code of conduct was really a turnoff to a lot of folks in the audience when they were invited to that. So we're taking that into consideration. We're trying to find a different way to describe it, but what we're really trying to get after is just what do our values look like when we show up every day? How should we treat each other? What kind of university community do we want to create together? Any other questions? Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Chris. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but we had this document that was presented to me, and a few others in here may have seen it, and it was originally called Code of Conduct, and one of my main suggestions is maybe you want to think of a different title, something like WVU Values and Expectations, and he took me very literally, so you didn't even mention that, so I thank you for that, but just so we know what you were talking about, I wanted that clarification. Okay. All right, so, and I will be attending that policy workshop, and so I'll have some input. Okay, so our next agenda item is Curriculum Committee reports. Ralph Utzman, this is from the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee, Annex 1. Or did you have any comments before you go into the annexes?
Nope, I'm ready for the annex.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ralph Utzman, and we have several items for consideration today. First, we have for approval new courses report, Annex 1.
Okay, thank you. Now this is an approval item, and so first of all, are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 1, including Potomac State and WVU Tech? If you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, good. Okay, so then we can vote. So all those here in Morgantown in favor of approving Annex 1, say aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, and I do need to take the votes of our divisionals. So Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Okay. And WVU Tech, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for sticking with the meeting. Our next item, and it's also for approval, is Annex 2.
Annex 2 is course changes, deletions, and adoptions report.
Okay. Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 2, including at Tech or Potomac State? Okay. So all those in favor of approving Annex 2, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Okay. WVU Tech, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. So the ayes have it. Annex 2 is approved, as was Annex 1.
Okay, the next item for approval is an optional syllabus statement on campus safety, which is in the agenda as Annex 3. The background is that a group of faculty and WVU Police Chief Bob Roberts back in 2015 developed this statement with the intent that it would be on the menu for optional syllabus statements that faculty could include in their syllabi if they wished. And it never really got to this body for final approval. So the Senate Curriculum Committee took that back and reviewed it with the Provost's office, and we'd like to present it for your approval today.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions or points of discussion regarding Annex 3? Okay, so those in favor of approving Annex 3, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Okay, WVU Tech, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 5 ayes.
Okay, well, the ayes have it. Annex 3 is approved, and we'll make sure that we get that updated on the Faculty Senate website with a list of optional syllabus statements. Okay, and next.
And finally, we have for approval a new major in sports and adventure media.
Okay, this is a new major, so it's also an approval item. Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex? It's not Annex, for the new major in sports and adventure media. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the new major in sports and adventure media, say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed, say no. Okay, Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Okay, thank you. WVU Tech, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 5 ayes.
Okay, so the ayes have it. The new major in sports and adventure media is approved. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Ralph. So next is the General Education Committee report from Natalie Singh Corcoran.
So Annex 4, we'd like to actually pull. We're working with Tech on the language for Econ 401, and Music 475 requires further investigation.
Okay, so there are 2 courses on that annex, but both of them are being pulled for consideration. So at this point, we no longer have an annex, and there's no sense in approving an empty document. So we'll move on to the next item.
And Annex 5 is for information, Jeff Transition Reviews.
This is Jeff Transition Review. This is for information. Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 5? Okay, good. So hearing no questions, then Annex 5 is filed. Okay, so we got through most of our business. We do have a presentation today, and that's from the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And VP David Freisen has agreed to come out here, and I think you brought some of your colleagues with you as well. And we have a presentation here. I'm not sure who's going to be the first of the speakers. Yourself? Okay. Great.
Thank you, Matt. This is a great opportunity for us to come and really from the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to give you an overview of where we are now as opposed to where we have been. There have been some pretty significant changes, but we really wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you about where we are, because we truly believe that what we've been trying to do over the last 5 years since our existence is to transform West Virginia University into a model institution for diversity and inclusion. Not just for the state of West Virginia, but really for the nation. West Virginia, I believe, is one of the greatest assets that this nation has, and so often we are not understood. And so we came into this idea with having two big, hairy, audacious goals. We felt like it would take two. And the first one was to change the national perception of West Virginia University and West Virginia as it concerns diversity. And many of you know, in terms of the way that people feel about West Virginia, it really does not reflect the reality of who we have been historically and actually who we are now. But in addition to that opportunity to have that big, hairy, audacious goal of changing the national perception, we also wanted to change the diversity reality. The diversity reality at West Virginia University and the diversity reality throughout the state of West Virginia. And so I've had an opportunity to present to you. We didn't present last year, and we thought it would be good to talk just a little bit about our current office structure. This is our current office structure for the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And it's really in 3 offices. We have the Office of Diversity Initiatives, and we have the Office of Equity Assurance, which also includes our Title IX office. And also we have a new Office of Inclusion and Innovative Inclusion and Outreach. And here are our senior officers. Dr. Samuel Lopez, who is our Assistant VP, who's come to us about a year ago, who leads our Office of Diversity Initiative. We have Mr. James Going, who is our Title IX coordinator, but also our Director of Equity Assurance. We have Mariana Matthews, who is our Assistant Director for Title IX Prevention Education, and finally Rob Lyons, who's our director for the new Office of Innovative Inclusion and Outreach. The reason for the new Office of Inclusion and Innovative Outreach was that in late 2016, with a lot of the campus unrest and the difficulties that we had, we felt that as we looked at the national scope, that there were a lot of faculty concerns related to infringement on academic freedom. We felt like that there were a lot of headline grabbing events dealing with unrest and protests, sometimes leading to violence. And it was thought that what we needed to do as the diversity office was to support a very healthy campus environment. And we felt that by doing that we would foster an appropriate balance between protecting academic freedom and free speech, but also promoting the safety and the security of all members of our campus community. So we thought that it was very important to contribute to and reinforce West Virginia University's messages on civility, and that civility is actually based upon our shared core values. And when you look at the core values of West Virginia University, civility undergirds everything that we are really saying right now, in terms of service, in terms of curiosity, in terms of respect, in terms of accountability, in terms of appreciation. If you look at that as a core, that really translates into having an opportunity for our campus, for our institution to be one that is very civil. So we have had some specific initiatives that we have done over the past few months to improve our campus climate. One is that we, through Rob Lyons, we conducted a listening tour throughout many of our student orgs across the gambit, from the conservatives to the most liberal. We wanted to have an opportunity for these students and these student orgs to be heard by the administration. We have been in collaboration with Housing and Residence Life in equipping staff to address conflicts appropriately and quickly. And finally, we have been in collaboration with Adventure West Virginia on our Civility Challenge course, which is targeting our student leaders. Now, the Office of Innovative Inclusion and Outreach really also came about because of the changes with our Affirmative Action Office. And so this office also is involved with helping our recruitment, our diversity recruitment for faculty, staff, and students. And all of this is geared toward a more diverse and inclusive institution. I thought it would be important for us to give a snapshot in terms of how we look from a diversity perspective. The first on the left is currently our employees, and we're showing the difference between 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017. We don't have the most current numbers for the 2017. As you can see, our overall minority total in this is 12%. Our African American employees account for 4%, and our Asian employees account for 6%. On the faculty side, our Asian population is 10%, our African American population is 3%, our Hispanic population is about 1%, giving us an overall minority total of 15%. We thought it also would be important to take a look at our student head count and our enrollment head count, and we did a kind of an analysis between where we were in 2010 and where we are in 2016. And as you can see in all of the areas that we have pretty significant growth, particularly our international students have grown from 4.8 to 7.9%. Our Asian population has stayed somewhat steady, 1.7% to 1.8% in 2016. Our African American population has continued to grow from 3.4% to 4.5%, and I believe that our 2017 numbers will also see an additional increase. Our two or more, which was not always a category, has also increased to 3.5%. Interestingly, when you look at our total number, our actual share and the actual number of white students has actually gone down, which means that over this period of time, our growth as an institution has really been in the area of diversity, it's been in the area of international. And so diversity is not just a social construct. Diversity is a bottom line opportunity for this institution to grow and to be greater. I had to throw in a little plug for ourselves. For this year, we have received a Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award called the HEED Award, and it's actually our second consecutive time of receiving this award. It's important, though, because the HEED Award measures an institution's level of achievement and intensity of commitment in regard to broadening diversity and inclusion on campus through initiatives, programs, outreach, and student recruitment, student retention, and completion and hiring faculty. Now, it's very interesting because there's only 80 of these institutions throughout the United States that receive this prestigious honor, and we're happy to be a part of that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have the great opportunity to now have an Assistant Vice President for Diversity Initiatives, and Dr. Samuel Lopez will come forward and talk about some of the activities that he has been involved with.
Good afternoon. So I think one of the things that we talk about within the division and within the campus is what is the role of diversity, the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And so one of the things that we want to talk about is that we really are a resource for the campus and the community, where, as VP Freisen has indicated, we're actively involved in much of the recruiting in both faculty, staff, and students. But we also are very active within the community as well, and not just the community of Morgantown, but throughout the state and throughout the region and the nation. So I think that is really one of the positive roles that we have. We're also about education. You know, we're here to educate and inform the campus. We're not, many people when they hear the term diversity initiatives or equal opportunity, they think that we're somehow the campus police who look at ways in which people are doing everything wrong, but that's not really our role. We're not in the business to change minds. We're really in the business to educate and to offer a different perspective on various issues that face the campus and the community. And as VP Freisen indicated, we see our growth within our underrepresented population, so it's really important to the campus as we prepare WVU for the future. We do take on, sometimes we take on challenging or issues that seem to be a little bit complicated. And so this is where we look at how do we bring in a different perspective. You know, many people would find this graphic to be, you know, maybe somewhat controversial, but you know, there's something we can use like this to bring out a lot of different issues and to address those issues. You know, one of the issues we can look at and we talk about is media portrayal. What are the stereotypes that media portray? And so something like this would be used to start a conversation on a variety of topics. It could religious aspects or religious point of view, culture, misogyny, sexism. And so those are some of the things that we do as we take on and we work with, Mr. Lyons works with various constituencies. That's how we maybe sometimes get some of these discussions started. You know, many of the diversity initiatives that we take place that we either administer ourselves or support across the campus include these topics: our Male Initiative, our Chancellor Scholars Program. We support the Council for Women's Concern and their Women of Color Luncheon, as well as looking at ways in which to discuss the Campus Climate Survey. We've supported some of the Human Rights Film Festival, in which we try to bring films and documentaries on various current topics so that we can have a panel discussion following that. We conduct a multicultural graduation celebration for our students so that they and their families can celebrate very often the first in their families to graduate from the university. We have numerous campus entities that we collaborate with, including Enrollment Management, Global Affairs, the Office of Global Affairs, the LGBTQ Center, our Center for Black Culture and Research, Alumni Affairs, Academic Affairs, and Athletics. We consult with all of these in addressing some of the challenges and or topics that they are facing themselves. We do have plans for additional initiatives. One of the things that I would like to see get started on the campus is a campus-wide diversity council in which we would have representation not only from the Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, and also the SGA, so that we can address these topics of how we best serve the campus and the community. I'm also in the process of developing a student advisory council, because one of the things that we do is we serve students. You know, that's what all of us do. That's why we're here on the campus, and I think it's important that we do have a student advisory council within our division. As we separate ourselves from HEPC, one of the things that I'd like to see start on the campus is a diversity grant program, so that as we can continue to offer those opportunities for not only faculty, staff, and students. And then we also are looking at ways in which we can support faculty research, either by providing diversity statements and or diversity data information, so that as you submit your grants, that you could have this information readily available for you. Again, we talk about some of our community partners. I won't go through all of them, but these are some of the entities here that we partner with within the community. And a shameless plug for us as well, next week is the start of Diversity Week. Our theme is One Mountaineer Family. We do have the schedule posted at that website there, and I would invite all of you to participate in at least several of the events and or have your classes participate as well. One other thing that is not listed there is our Veterans Breakfast, which is coming up on November 10th at 8 a.m. in the Erickson Alumni Center. It's open to the campus and all members of the campus, but we would really like to invite those veterans who are amongst our faculty, staff, and students. And there will be a link on the Talent Strategy website that will become available to where you can register in the next few days. So these are the things that we'd like to hear from you. How can we help you? You know, what are some of the outreach efforts that you have in mind that we could participate with? You know, both several members of our office are willing to come and speak to classes, to have discussions within faculty, departmental meetings, and also brown bag luncheons and facilitate any of those types of in-service or workshops that you may have. Now, I'd like to invite another colleague up, Ms. Mariana Matthews, to talk about our equity assurance.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon. It's not morning. I am Mariana Matthews. I'm here on behalf of Vice President David Freisen, James Goins Jr., our Director of Equity Assurance, to just give you a Title IX update. Everyone's completed their Title IX training in the room, right? Of course, right, awesome. Well, I am here to talk to you about that and let you know about some of our prevention efforts as well. Some of our Title IX efforts just since August, since school has started, we have facilitated 117 live training sessions. Under James Goins' office, we've been running the online training modules for all students and all employees to complete the moment that they come to campus. We see that to be a great tool for the online structure, but in addition to that, these in-person sessions allow a lot more opportunity for discussion of these sensitive topics that go far beyond just sexual violence. It goes into domestic violence, discrimination, harassment, culture, stereotyping, things of that nature that kind of allow that opportunity for those discussions. So we've been actively engaged in those. If you would like one for your department or your area, please feel free to reach out to me. We are very flexible. We have one at Friday at 11 p.m. HSC loves 7 a.m. sessions, so we are there at 7 a.m., so whatever works best for your team, that's what we'll do. In regards to the online trainings, just since August, we've trained about 4,600 new students and about 807 employees online. And then our Children on Campus policy involving youth, about 6,000, a little over 6,000. So that would be discussing obligations of reporting, talking about the complexities of child abuse and how this may be the first time that some students may feel comfortable talking to a mentor or volunteer that might be facilitating with WVU's program. So we want to make sure that they're well versed on how to report those if those come into contact and the sensitivity of those obligations. In addition, the university, just as an update, we did sign on to the It's On Us campaign under President Obama's administration, Vice President Biden's administration, with President Guy Provost McConnell in our office in 2015. We've continued with those efforts. We have rebranded them a little bit. The efforts originally under the previous administration were very focused on campus sexual assaults. We've broadened that to be a little more inclusive of discrimination, domestic violence, and other areas that we're seeing on campus. We've hosted 31 awareness events since August with our students. These are student-led events. If you would like to partner on them, if your department would like to become more engaged, we would absolutely welcome that. You all are experts in your fields, and we'd love to have this more of a cultural item, so please reach out to us. Some of these events look like, very quickly, tabling events where we have students lead tabling with information. They get involved in art projects, poetry. They basically hold student-to-student discussions about these sensitive topics. We do resource fairs. So a lot of you, Women in Gender Studies, has been very gracious, brought us to their women fairs in the mountain layer, which has been wonderful. International Student Orientation, we did a lot more cultural specific issues around these topics. We did a little bit more of breaking down language barriers around these areas, misconceptions with different religions, excuse me, and cultures, and how the sensitivity of the topics that we deal with intimately really need to be broken down a little bit further for certain groups. So if you have input on that, expertise in that, please reach out to our office as well. We were at the new student orientation. We touched about 3,000 hands with our student advocates, which was great. So a lot of conversations about what their expectations should be coming to campus, things that they should be aware of, and if something does happen, who can they reach out to? We were Welcome Week. We worked with Adventure West Virginia. That is phenomenal. They did a really great job in including our students in those projects. And we've been working with the Crew Center and WVU on alcohol education in the dorms. So all of August and September, the information we were doing in dorms was prevention awareness about alcohol consumption. What we see with a lot of our cases, if you're not familiar with, about 90% of sexual violence cases involve some form of alcohol or drug abuse. And so that's an important message that we speak a lot of. We also are welcome to awareness documentaries like The Hunting Ground. We also do a lot more with the Iranian Students Association, Muslim Student Association, talking about gender normatives there. So if you're interested in getting involved with those, we'd love that. UPD, we've worked and held already 2 self-defense protect programs this semester. And one of our biggest ones is with the Student Government Association. We have developed a platform so that the new student government leaders will not only go through Title IX equity assurance training, but they will actually have a representative that will work directly with our office on these prevention efforts to kind of continue that movement when those transitions occur. We're working with athletics. Some of our advocates were present at the WVU football game for more of a visual area there. That's thousands and thousands of people to really spread the message of not only alcohol, but the effects of violence in those situations. So our advocates go to the games and talk a lot about having conversations and helping and being an active bystander. And we are working with both Air Force and Army ROTC to really spread the message within the military, and in currently developing 2 similar programs to our peer advocate program that we've developed here on main campus for the ROTC to work with their Spark teams on to develop within their campuses. So we have an intern working on those. For October, we will be focusing on healthy relationships and domestic violence abuse. So if you're interested in getting involved with any of those efforts, please let us know. And of course, I have to get a ping to President Gee for retweeting us always. That's always great, and we always have really fantastic social media blast after that. On an update on our student programs, with the blessings of Provost McConnell and Vice President Freisen and Mr. James Goins, we do have a peer advocate program. If you're not familiar with it, it's where we've taken students of all different majors, backgrounds, genders, and identities, and trained them in a 3-credit academic course around the topics that we deal with in our office. They then, not as a counselor, not as an advisor, but simply as a peer support, provide resources and options to fellow students who may be affected either negatively or as the accused student or the victim or survivor, terminology you choose to use. They'll support them with their rights and resources here at WVU. It is now a 3-section, 3-credit course. So we actually are teaching 3 different sections of that. It started as a training in the fall of 15, and now we have 253 students that have completed that course. If you're interested in hearing more about it or talking, we'd be happy to talk to you about it. These are some of the areas that they cover. In addition to our Title IX administration process and response as an institution, they also learn about the medical proceedings. They learn about the criminal law enforcement project. But if anything, these students are very knowledgeable about just how the system works. Because typically students who are going to tell someone, they're going to tell their friend, and their friends usually appear. So we see that to be very valuable. Just in a year, they do on average about 300 Title IX consultations is what we call them, where they talk about resources and options for students on campus. Some of your students in some of your fields may be part of this. If you're interested in it, please let us know. We also have a 24-hour hotline, equity assurance number. It's answered by myself or one of my 2 staff members 24/7 by call or text. So if you have a student who wants to report or has a question about Title IX, this is a great number for them, and they utilize it very much because they can remain anonymous while calling that number. And a little number update. Our WVU peer advocates alone have contributed over 7,000 hours of volunteer service through either live responding to the hospital for a safe kit, working with students one-on-one, or doing events around campus. Another update, if you're not familiar, our Title IX process and investigation procedures are separate and apart from law enforcement, but we do still work with law enforcement. Under Mr. Goins, we opened a soft interview room with the Morgantown Police Station in April of this year. The reason that's so important is because this was a collaborative effort. Typically, victims of sexual violence would have been interviewed in potentially an interrogation room or a small unsecured space that wasn't very inviting. Now they'll be interviewed in a space that is really mirrors the inviting environment of Carews Center and kind of like a living room space. And this is used by not just Morgantown Police, but also open to UPD, our Title IX investigators, as well as the local law enforcement agencies. So I wanted to update you there. Is it okay if I play a video really quick? Oh, I have to plug this for our previous administration. We were invited to the White House twice, which I thought was really awesome, to present our efforts on behalf of West Virginia University to President Obama's administration. So we are now working with 12 different schools to develop peer advocate programs at their institutions as well. And I would like to show you a quick video if everyone's okay with that. I'm going to do it anyway, unless Provost tells me I can't. We did a video with, got it? Okay, awesome. With the Big 12 Leaders of Student Government Association. We led an It's On Us kind of collaborative effort to really encourage the other colleague Big 12 schools to kind of start these student-led efforts as we have done. And so here's the video that presented.
Being in the Big 12 Conference is bigger than just my university.
We may compete on the fields and in the stadiums,
but we know that our partnership can be used for something bigger.
Sexual assault is something we take seriously on every campus.
We've all seen the headlines across the country.
But there are cases right here on our campuses.
There's still a lot of work to do.
In Austin, Lubbock, Stillwater,
Ames,
right here in Lawrence,
Fort Worth,
Manhattan,
Morgantown,
Waco,
Norman.
As Big 12 student leaders, we commit to
stand by you,
advocate for resources on our campuses,
stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult, work together to end sexual assault on all college campuses.
We want to help.
because we believe you.
Because we believe you.
Because we believe you.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
And we hear you.
So in addition to that video, we launched the program with the Big 12 universities, with the student associations and the student government leaders. So if you have any students that would like to get involved, it's a great effort. And we really see a lot of change with student-to-student led messaging around these topics. So if you're interested in helping out, we'd love to have you. Or suggestions or critiques, it's all welcome. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for any of our speakers? Okay, well, thank you. Move on. And the presentation, by the way, is one of your annexes if you wanted to go back and look at it. Okay, so next on the agenda this is report from Roy Nutter, Faculty Representative to State Government, AKA the ACF report.
Thank you. Roy Nutter, Statler College, and your ACF rep. Frankly, I don't know how to follow that. Very well done. Let me talk about what I know statewide, which isn't a lot. There are a couple of campuses that are probably not very happy with their presidents right now. If you've been reading any of the news, you will hear it. Should be an article in the Charleston Gazette, I think, tomorrow, from what I've heard from them. The big issue is, just as you would expect, it's budget. Where do we get the money and how do we survive? And I can't say anything that I know anything more than that. Our next meeting will be October the 12th, so I can bring you a lot more rumors after that. Complete report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Roy? Okay, thank you, Roy. Okay, next on the agenda, this is the Board of Governors report from Governor Stan Heilman.
All right, so briefly, September 29th, we had a joint meeting, the Finance and Facilities and Revitalization Committee and the Strategic Plans and Initiatives Committee. A lot of things were discussed, but the vast majority were in executive session. So nothing to really report or anything voted on from that meeting. And the next scheduled meeting for the Board of Governors is October 27th. So we should have an update for the next Faculty Senate meeting.
Okay, thanks, Stan. Any questions for Stan? Okay, thank you. Okay, so our next item, this is actually for an approval item. It's a resolution supporting Morgantown non-discrimination expansion proposal. Okay, and I'll give you a little background here. So as many of you probably know, the city of Morgantown is in the process of amending the code that relates to its non-discrimination policy and Human Rights Commission. And among other things, the amended code expands the policy to add sexual orientation, gender identity, and veteran status to the list of included groups. The ordinance itself it's about 14 pages long. We wouldn't expect you to have read it before today's meeting, but the Faculty Senate Exec Committee did meet and they voted on the resolution that's before you. And the purpose of the resolution is to show that we, the WVU Faculty Senate, support the efforts to expand Morgantown's non-discrimination policy. So as a matter of procedure, it's coming from exec. I think we need a motion to bring it from exec.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Executive Committee, I move that the proposed resolution be adopted.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Our faculty secretary is also on exec, has moved that it become part of today's deliberations. So we don't need a second since it's coming from exec. At this point, are there any objections or points of discussion about the resolution? Yeah, please. You can take the, use the microphone, even if it's short. Thank you.
Sarah Knox, School of Public Health. Does this include religion as well, this policy?
So religion, I believe, was already
That's what
in
I'm
there,
wondering.
and so it did not need to be added.
Okay, thank you.
There was another class that was called familial status, and it was a little ambiguous as to whether that was in there before or not. Are there other questions or points of discussion? Okay, hearing none, we can vote on it. So all those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, Potomac State, how do you vote on the resolution?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Okay, thank you. WVU Tech, how do you vote on the resolution?
WVU Tech has 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next items, new business. Is there any new business? Okay, hearing none, then is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Okay, we are adjourned.